Jewish gaucho? Like that? Hey, Wendy.
How do I find out?
Oh, I should turn my phone off.
Because I'm supposed to like convey the questions from people who are on Facebook. I don't know how to use Facebook. No. I don't see it streaming.
Are you gonna dance?
Where do I need to go? Is it just to try the whole page? Oh, that's the Shabbat morning service. So, let's go back to community home.
I don't think I've met you. Hi, Howie. I'm Patty Brewer. And my husband Ira.
Isn't it just on?
I'm Stephanie. What's your name? And this is Joanne.
And I'm sorry. I missed your name.
But it looks like it's
Yes. Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. Please sit down. Okay, welcome to Congregation Kol Shalom, people who are in the first time, and those who are joining us on Facebook and also on YouTube, the YouTube channel. Welcome. So that's why I'm using this device. So, the Jewish gauchos, an introduction to Argentinian Jewry. Let me say a couple of things as an introduction. Yes. So, there is the history, right? But who can tell the history? I mean, who is able to do so? And there are many histories, depending on what point of view are you looking at the reality, depending how you are trying to understand what's going on, right? So what I'm going to do, come, please, and sit. If you need to add chairs, we can do that. I'm not going to teach. The approach is not. It's not going to be an academic approach, but as you see in this very first photo, I am going to share with you, part of what is my history too, my roots, my grandparents, my dad and mom, and also I need to tell you that this is a very general title. I mean, the Jews of Argentina. Each chapter here can be one lecture or one talk. So what I will do is to try to explain some of the things that I will show you in photos, and after that I will give you time to make questions, because maybe you are interested more in one thing or in another, so I will be pleased to do so. And as I said, this is Judy and Rabbi Dario's roots. I mean, this is our roots, and this is what I will try to share with you this evening. So, in this picture, we are in Jerusalem, in Israel. Judy and I, and in the middle is our rabbi, Rabbi Marshall T. Meyer, And this class is an introduction. I will tell you, when we started thinking about this with Phyllis over there and Carrie, I thought about Rabbi Marshall Meyer's teaching and impact. And well, they said, but we don't know anything about the Jews from Argentina. So let's do an introduction. So this class will be a kind of introduction, first to Argentina, to the Argentinian culture, some of the tastes of our culture that is, believe me, so different. But as I was telling you, when you will see it, and we will talk about our grandparents, you will see our own grandparents. We will be reflected in these photos, because some ships came to New York and some others came to Buenos Aires at the same time. And it's this is something that we don't realize. I mean, that's why I'm speaking like an Indian today with this pronunciation. But 3 years ago, when I came, it was even worse. So you can imagine that. So I will talk about my history. So this is the map, yeah, and it has its own proportions. So Argentina is not so small. It's not at all so small. So yes, so this is the map of the United States and the map of Argentina. Argentina has a surface of more than 1,000 square miles. The population this year was there was this research, and the population is 47.32 million people. Not most, but a very important percentage of the Argentinians live in Buenos Aires and the metropolitan area. If you see Buenos Aires and the second most important or bigger city, well, the difference is huge. Argentina has 15.37 million people, and Cordoba, the second one, has 1.6, not Cordoba in Spain, although it's the same word. The third one, Rosario, where Lionel Messi was born. You know Leo Messi, of course. Yes. Then Mendoza, 1.2 million. And what about the Jews? What about the Jews? This will be an important part of this talk. This year we more or less, all these our statistics are not perfect. We have 180,500. It's about the 0.4 of the population. But, there's a question, who is a Jew? And this is a very interesting question for another time. But if we are considering the patrilineal and also interfaith families, the Jewish population in Argentina is 30,000 people, 0.7% of the population, including the Jews in the 60s. When I was a kid, I was born in 1957, and in the 60s there were 500,000 Jews, 310,000, or if you count all the, in a more general way, as we do as Reformed Jews, 500,000. So this is a huge population. And nowadays there are about 18,000 Jews living in Israel. The Jewish population in Argentina is the biggest in South America, and also is the 5th biggest in the world outside Israel. Well, Are you ready for a city tour? Okay, then, what? Okay, so let me tell you this. Well, Judy is an expert, you know, she had a company, she ran a company taking groups to different parts of the world. Fortunately, 2 months after we came to the US, to this amazing island and this great congregation, the pandemic started. So, but when things will be better, I think we can organize a group, of course. But meanwhile, this is our obelisk. Yeah, this is the center of the city, and this is our what is the name of Times Square? This is our Times Square. This is Avenida Corrientes with lots of theaters. You need to understand that Buenos Aires is a cosmopolitan city, big city. The cultural life is huge. Lots of theaters and cinemas, restaurants, art museums. It's really a big city. This is our pink house. You have here is a White House. We have a pink house where the government work. It's not the residence of the president. The president lives in another very fancy place, about half an hour from there. But this is very important. The place, because it's a big square, and I will remind me to come back to this square. I want. By the way, I didn't take notes for this class, and this is the first time I'm doing that. You know that I even write my drashot, because I'm not so comfortable speaking without I had some limits yet. But in this case, I felt that it will be better, even with mistakes, even if I forget many things, to talk from the guts, okay? So, well, this is our pink house, in Spanish, Casa Rosada, and this is our Congress. This is our Congress in another part of the city, but not so far from the pink house. This is the Colón Theater, the opera house. Ira, you will fall in love with this theater. It's amazing. One of the most, I've been in many opera theaters. This is one of the most beautiful I've seen. And this is in the center of Buenos Aires, very close, 1 block from one important, the first synagogue in the city. I will show you. Well, Buenos Aires is like divided in different neighborhoods, and each neighborhood has a different style, a different taste. So this one is called Palermo, and it's very, very French in many ways. People love, especially, we don't have winter like here. So if you go in the winter time, you will wear a T-shirt there. While we were wearing, coats and jackets. So, and I don't recommend you to go in the middle of, January or February, because it will be very, very hot. So this is Palermo. You see people having a coffee or, in the street. This is another neighborhood. Actually, it's about 15 blocks from our home in Buenos Aires. We have different parks and different lakes. We used to go there to have a walk, to work out, and to be outside. Oh my God, you know this. You're right? You know this. No, this is not me. And this is not Judy as well. No, The cultural life of Buenos Aires is very, as I told you, is very important, and this is one neighborhood, one of the most emblematic neighborhoods. Its name is San Telmo, and I will talk about the immigration, but San Telmo they have lots of big houses, and the houses are like a patio in the middle, and just doors where people live, almost huge and big families of immigrants used to live there. And they are still there, and we can go and see this. And well, in Saturdays and Sundays, they used to have music outdoors, play tango, a lot of tango there. And well, I think it would be interesting. This is another neighborhood, La Boca, from Genovese Italian immigrants, and great and very, if you have been in the Cinque Terre in Italy, or different, Burano also in Italy. So these are Italian that came to Argentina. I will talk about this in a little while. And of course, we are crazy about soccer. Crazy, really crazy. Steve invited me to go to the Mariners for a game, and it was great. But I need to tell you, it was so different. I mean, it was so relaxed. So we ate, and we talk with each other. There, you cannot even listen. We cannot hear what the person next to you is telling. People get really crazy, and this, of course, is Boca Juniors. I am a fan of this of Boca. So, and I used to go almost every week when I was a teenager here, and shout, and Okay, this neighborhood is called Once, and Viamonte and Ascuénaga are two streets just in the middle of this neighborhood. It's like the Lower East Side of Buenos Aires, where many Ashkenazic and also Sephardic Jews came and established. I remember when my dad, Zichrono Livracha, took me there to buy pastrami and pickles and all these things from big how do you call it? Barrels. And when I come for the first time to New York, and I went to the to the Lower East Side, oh, this is like Once. Okay, so you say a Hasidic Jew there. There was the first, in Buenos Aires, there was the first kosher McDonald's. This is in another neighborhood called Almagro. Yes, and so you can go, and it's glad kosher, okay? And this is the Museum of the Shoah, the Holocaust Museum. And okay, so Argentinian Jews are very Zionist. They're part of our culture is, as I will talk in a while, we are very close to Israel in many ways. And this is Yom HaAtzmaut celebration in 2021 in a stadium with 8,400 seats. And the musical director, you see here the musical director? Do you recognize this person? Herman Kalinski was the musical director. Herman is the person who plays keyboard in the online services here. Yes, Herman is with his accordion. And yes, so, okay. But I need to tell you that there is the other Argentina. It's going to be a very sad thing for me to share with you. But during the last, let's say, 30 years, Argentina was falling and having lots of economical and social crisis, and it was very sad. It's very sad to see homeless in the streets, as is in every big city. But I remember when I was a kid that I won't see. I don't have memories of this poverty. You know, we have poverty, but the urban poverty, it's especially, it's not, you know, you lose completely your dignity. Yeah? And since some years ago, we didn't have the, you know, the recycle organization, so poor people just come and take all these things that can be recycled and sell them for, you know, for some cents. But this is the way for them to make a living. So I was telling about, you know, the theaters and the glory, and also I need to tell you that this is the other side of the coin, and it's very sad, very, very sad, because I know the talent of many Argentinians. I know the value as human beings, how they treat people, how they treat each other, and it's really great to see that. But when you see this, you say, wow, it's so sad. And well, this picture is heartbreaking, and you don't need any explanation to understand what this young man is doing. Okay, in the other Argentina, we had two different times. I was too young in the first part when terrorism, local terrorism, what we call the guerrilla, was working and doing all these kidnappings and bombings and whatever. So, you know, there was, you heard about Che Guevara and the revolution in Cuba, and these communist ideas that they thought that the revolution should come only by using force. The problem was that in 1976, and I was in my first year of the architecture school in Buenos Aires, there was a military, how to say, this. And this was, I cannot tell you how much times worse than the guerrilla stuff. And also, it was the terrible thing that is everything was perpetrated by the state, by the generals. So we used to have, I know we had concentration camps in many places. We know where they are, and I visited some of them. Torture was very common. I mean, they took babies, just when they wanted to kill someone, took the babies, and the word, this is an Argentinian word, missing, as a noun, not as a verb. 30,000 missing people, people thrown, dragged, and alive through the Rio de la Plata to the river. And of course, if you were a Jew, you will receive, a bonus in torture and in everything. If you read the book of Timmerman's book, I don't remember exactly the name of the book. Is
Prisoner Without a Name.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I will try to translate this, but this is the yeah. So he was captured because he was the head of a very important newspaper, but he was a Jew. So well, I can talk just about this 2 hours, but if you have questions afterwards, please, I would be happy to answer. And you know, the other photo that you see here, it's about the importance of being present and the struggle for human rights. These are what we call Madres de Plaza de Mayo, the mothers of the square. You remember when I talk you about the pink house? So the mothers of Plaza de Mayo would go every Thursday and do circles around the square in silence, just in silence, with their handkerchiefs, white handkerchief, and the pictures of their children who were missing. And imagine this, mothers not knowing about the fate of their children, and they were very courageous, because if you went and see stand before close to these people, these were Nazis. I mean, the generals, Videla, and all these, the couple, the three who were in charge, they were really Nazis, and they were condemned afterwards. So, and also there was a Jewish movement called Movimiento Judío por los Derechos Humanos, which means the Jewish movement for the human rights. And as I will tell you afterwards, Marshall Meyer, my rabbi, was part of this movement as well. Another thing that you need to understand, especially for next class on January will be only on Zoom, and a specialist who has his doctorate in the thought and impact of Rabbi Meyer. He will talk from Mexico. And he's also one of Marshall's disciples, as Judy and me, and as Bnei Jeshurun's rabbis in New York. And you need to know that in this other Argentina, I put the terrorist attacks. There were two terrible terrorist attacks. The first one to the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires. It was in March 17, 1992, and there were 22 people murdered and lots of wounded people, 242. And almost 2 years after that, on July the 18th, 1994, there was a terrible bombing. By the way, the two terrorist attacks were the same way. A car. It was a car full of explosives, and this one had 85 people that lost their lives. Among them, a friend of us, a rabbi, some students of mine, and some other people very close. One classmate in my school was killed the same day, and it was the day after Tisha B'Av in the Jewish calendar. So who knows how to explain this? But the third attack is, to me, that both attacks remain unpunished until today. So we know that there are, forces or countries. we think that Iran is involved in this, but also we think that there are Argentinian connections there. And although I didn't feel a terrible anti-Semitism during my life there, believe me, it's there. And it's there from different parts, as you know, it is here in the U.S., from the right and from the left. We were with Judith the whole week after, you see this picture. We didn't know who died, who didn't. The corpses were under all the structure. So we were there, trying to be with the people, trying to talk with them. The anxiety. You can imagine this. And I remember when we received, like a wallet full of dust, and I opened the wallet and it was our friend. So we understood that she died, and she was working in the social action. She was the head of the social action. So, So if you have questions about this afterwards, we will do this. Okay, grandmas and grandpas. This is my grandpa. I am presenting you. I didn't know him. Actually, I knew only one of my 4 grandparents, and it's Gracia, my mom's side grandmother. So my grandparents from my dad's side came from Lithuania, and I am half Sephardic. So Laniado is from Halab, from Aleppo, Syria, and here there are Judy's grandmothers. Awe Lili, we called her Awe Lili, Grandma Lili. She was born in the Ukraine, and Oma Gabriel. We didn't call her Gabriel. We called her Oma. Oma was born in Germany. So this is, I think this is my roots can explain the multicolor of the Jewish immigration to Argentina. So they came from different parts. Of course, there were more. Let me see this. There were more. More Ashkenazic than Sephardic. I will talk about this later on. So Argentina was, in these times, was a wealthy country. Can you imagine that? Very wealthy country, and was called the barn of the world. So many European immigrants came to Argentina in the 19th century. There was an almost 3 million immigrants from Italy. That was the 50% of this immigration. Then there was 2.1 million of Spanish immigrants, 31.5%. So the most important immigration to Argentina was from Italy. Even though we speak Spanish, we sing the language, and we use our hands and our food, like Italians. And afterwards, after the Italian and Spanish immigration, there was very small immigrants small in comparison. This was not small. From Spain, from the UK, from different parts, and 100 150,000 Jews that came to Argentina. So in 1868, the Argentinian population was 1.73 million, 12% immigrants. In 1914, the population rise to 7.8 million. So 30% of immigrants. So of course there's a mixture between the native South American, how do you call this? Native Argentinian, different kinds of I don't know if it's appropriate or not, say like tribes or, native people from different, and they have even different faces and different ways. But immediately there was like a mix of this. Okay, so let me present you my mom and my dad, Raquel and Pablo. Actually, people called him Pablo, but his name was Paisy. So I am Ben Pesach in Hebrew. So, and these are my parents that I adopted, or actually the contrary, they adopted me, and I love them so much, and they're Judy's parents. And so Sarita, Sarah, and Carlos. Carlos was the German one, so her name was Gerhard Karl, but all people call him Carlos or Carlitos, which is the nickname. And then we come to the gauchos, okay, the gauchos. First of all, we need to understand what is a gaucho. The gaucho was a person who lived probably outside the big city. Buenos Aires was not a very big city in those times. It was a city, but not so big. But the gauchos live in the rural part of Argentina. And as I hope you can read this, they were like the reputation is they were brave. They didn't follow the rules. The word what? Sabras? No, they were different. They're different, and they was like cowboys. Yes, and they used to have this way of these pants and always with the big knife. And they fought, and these fights that they had among them. But these three people are Jewish gauchos. So imagine my grandpa came from Europe. And he and my grandma, they had seven kids. Some of them settled in Buenos Aires, some of them became gauchos. So I don't have pictures of them. I don't think they had a camera in those times. But imagine coming from Europe. I would say, I cannot tell you what is the temperature in Russia or Ukraine or Lithuania or Belarus in the winter, but I can tell you that in the summer, in this rural Argentina, it's above the hundreds, the temperature, and lots of mosquitoes, lots of humidity. So imagine that. It's crazy. These people came and their lives were saved by the what is called the Jewish Colonization Association. This was an organization that was sponsored by Baron Moritz von Hirsch, and the organization brought thousands of Jews from Eastern Europe, and they established in these colonies. The important thing, I wrote this, these Jews they didn't care about of course it was a big challenge, but they didn't care about the temperature or, even the language or the culture. I will talk about this. But the most important thing is that they were free. They were not persecuted. They were not, they will not hope to find a pogrom in a few days. Was completely different. And this is a map of Argentina, and some, Argentina comes with the Patagonia here, but this is the center of the country: Chile, Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay. This is Buenos Aires, and all these are rural colonies, and that Jews came there and established there in following this project. Okay, so let's talk about the challenges. So they look like gauchos, but they also look like they are Jewish gauchos. So the faces are, So challenges. First of all, the cultural shock. No. Mate. And the guitar and the knife and different cows, lots of cows, no mountains, no ocean, no river, river sometimes, but very plain, very green, probably boring, very hot, very humid. Language. Versteht or not versteht? Not versteht. They didn't know how to speak. Even, as I told you, I didn't know my grandpa, but I knew lots of immigrants, and they spoke Spanish like your grandpas and grandmas spoke English. So I can imitate them. You won't understand because this will be in Spanish, but with this accent, with this way of singing the language, and with these mistakes that were, so funny to us. There are lots of recordings and discs of tangos in Yiddish, and the Jewish press in Yiddish, and even the Spanish with the Hebrew characters. So language, weather, as I told you, jobs. So the jobs were completely different. In the colonies, this was a rural life. They worked with cows and horses and agriculture. But in the cities, they were Quentenics. I will talk about this in a while. And of course, traditions. Many of them in the rural colonies, many of them lost, not the first generation, but the third generation, they lost their traditions. So this was a challenge, a terrible challenge. And this is important to understand, because when we will be talking about the impact of my rabbi, of Marshall T. Meyer, a New Yorker coming to Buenos Aires, we need to know that the synagogues were empty. Because the third generation, they forgot about our traditions. I remember going just for Yom Kippur to the synagogue, and this was the only day. And I didn't understand anything when I was a kid. I was born as many other Jews in a secular home. Not Judy, because they came from her dad's side. They came from Germany, and they were Orthodox Jews and very observant. Okay, so this is one of the colonies. This was the first synagogue in this colony, in Basavilbaso and Entre Rios. I led several summer camps and winter camps close to there, and we used to go for a morning service and put our tefillin there. This is a house. This is like a rancho, a rural Argentinian house, but when you come inside, you are transported to Russia. And the smell and the Torah scrolls. When we did this with our kids, the campers, all of us cried because it was like living again, going backwards, not geographically but also in time. And this is probably the most important of the colonies in another province, not in Entre Rios, but in Santa Fe. This colony is called Moises or Mosesville, Moses because our Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu, and the street is Baron Hirsch, and I thought it was interesting. Okay, so the Jewish immigration to Argentina was 80% Ashkenazic and 20% between Sephardic and Mizrahi. Mizrahi is like me, from Syria, Middle East. There were Quentanics, I told you, Quentanics. I found the translation peddlers. I don't know if it's accurate or not. They were going house by house, knocking the door. Would you like to buy this? So these were our grandparents in the big cities, especially in Buenos Aires. But they were very aware of being part of a community. So tzedakah and social institutions for them were crucial. It was very important. The AMIA is let's say the Ashkenazic mutual in Buenos Aires. It's not the only one, but it's probably the biggest. Is one of the examples. They built cemeteries. You have lots of cemeteries according to of where the people come from, and they were also offering jobs to Jews who wanted to work. They founded soup kitchens. Actually, my grandpa, you know him, you knew him. And my grandpa, Joseph David, he was was president of one of these what called soup kitchens, comedores populares. Also, they created a network of schools, and there was a VAD, was like a council that helped the Jewish education, and they built synagogues, lots of synagogues. In my neighborhood, in our neighborhood, where Judy and I have our home and our son Adam, Kanako, and our grandson Umi live now, there are, and this is not the Frum neighborhood, there are 14 synagogues. So you can decide if you go, you have a control remote, If you live on Bainbridge Island, you don't have many options, okay? But if you live in Buenos Aires, you have probably hundreds of options, okay? And in one neighborhood, so if it's very, very common if you had argument with the rabbi. Okay, let's go to the other, to the other block. There's another one. Okay, they built hospitals and also sports and country clubs. This is not common here in the States. I mean, you go and play sports in a general club, or we have health clubs now. Or you play golf, No, they used to have their own, so they played with their own Jewish comrades. And this is a Sephardic synagogue. I wanted to show you at least one Sephardic synagogue, okay? And so this is one. Cemeteries. This is, they built cemeteries. By the way, this is a tomb of Alberto Nisman, Natalio Alberto Nisman, who was a prosecutor who was killed. He was investigating the cause of the AMIA attack, and he was murdered in his home. And all the people who visited the tomb and put a stone there, and it's always growing. Jewish education. Steve, and the people who wanted to come to Buenos Aires, if you come with us to Buenos Aires, you will notice very, very, very fast that most of the Jews there speak some Hebrew. Some. Even the names when I deliver a drasha, a sermon, or a class, when I think of our ancestors, it's hard to me to say Jacob. Of course it's Jacob. Abraham. Of course it's Abraham. But it's Abraham, Yaakov. It's this was Tarbut school. This is Tarbut school. The school we Judy and I sent our kids for the primary school, and I was the director of Jewish studies for 5 years in this school. This is ORT, the secondary school. ORT is an international organization. Our kids, Adam and Lilach, studied here in the school. They used to have Hebrew and Jewish history and Bible. This is the hospital. It's not doing well financially now, but I noticed that there's a group of Jewish wealthy Argentinians that are trying to rescue the hospital from this situation. And as I told you, there were lots of sport clubs and country clubs. Many Jews just want to have a social life. So it's very common for, they used to go to one of clubs in the morning and stay the whole day and have lunch and play sports and socialize with people. And there are youth groups and rikudim, folk, Jewish Israeli dances. This is very common over there. Okay, synagogues. I have no time. Sorry about that. Synagogue. So this is the first synagogue that was built in Buenos Aires. It's the Comunidad Israelita de la República Argentina. This is the name, and it was founded in 1862. It's very like a cathedral, very imponent. And this is in the middle. Is one block from the Cologne Opera House. And this is the congregation that Judy and I founded with another 9 families. This is called Comunidad Amichai in the neighborhood of Belgrano, our neighborhood. The congregation was built in 1993. This is the sanctuary, part of the sanctuary in the middle. And there's a capacity of 1,000, there's 1,000 seats. And we used to use this, and even today they're using the sanctuary for concerts. They have a very special acoustic, and yes, and so it was a huge journey. We founded the congregation, and our kids were raised there in the summer camps and in the groups, and Judy and I prepared all the programs from scratch, and it was the first, most of the time, the first years especially, were an explosion of creativity, and this is the entrance to the synagogue. This is the sanctuary. Judy made the logo with the Magen David and the A of Amichai and heart, and the hands, there are hands holding there. Yes. So this is at night. So when people come from the street, they go and enter to the okay. Never mind. It's not so important, and the time is is going. And this is we used to have every Saturday afternoon. We used to have their youth groups. As I will tell you, this was one of the pillars of Marshall Meyer's thinking and work. Here it is. Let me present you Judy and for Judy and me. He was a rabbi, our teacher, and he became my colleague, and he became our friend. We were very close to the whole family. We are still close to the family. Most of them live in New York, and Gabi lives in Israel, and it's a citizen of the world. So this picture is great, and to me, it's very symbolic, because this is Marshall Meyer, my rabbi, and this is his rabbi, Abraham Joshua Heschel. So this picture is symbolic because what I received from Marshall, I didn't meet in person Heschel. I just read him, and I just saw him in some of the videos, the few videos that we have. But to me, there's a neo-Hasidic approach that was part of Heschel's legacy, that he transmitted this to Marshall, and Marshall transmitted it to us, and we are still learning, and I'm learning from Marshall, even though he passed away many years ago, almost every single day. And it's for us, it's always an inspiration. It's always, we think, what would Marshall answer to this? How he would react to this? So what is what I think are Heschel's most important ideas that Marshall took from him? Number one, being Jewish, it's doing Jewish. It's not because of my grandpa or because of, the gefilte fish I eat or whatever. It's because I live my Judaism. Mm-hmm. We are partners of God in the recreation of the unfinished Maaseh Bereshit world, and we need God, and God needs us. So we need to try to be human. We need to try to be religious, not only here in the synagogue, but especially outside the synagogue. Number 3, all humans were created in God's image. So, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, who cares? We're all siblings. So, this was a revolution. Jews that lived in Onse and other ghettos, Jewish neighborhoods, that had clubs and that only for Jews, this has an explanation, of course, because they were rejected from the high society clubs, but this was a revolution. Compassion, being kind, interfaith dialogue. Well, rabbis before Marshall didn't talk to priests, or it was a different world without any bridge. Social justice. Who cares about the poor if our refrigerator is full? So Marshall came with Heschel's ideas that being Jewish is also taking care of their tzedakah and gmilut chasadim. This is Judaism also, not just al chet shchatanu lefanecha, okay? And also civil rights. And as we will see, Marshall's impact was especially in the last part of his journey in Argentina. By the way, he spoke so badly Spanish. His Spanish was so terrible, but it didn't. On the contrary, it made the whole thing more like, with the atmosphere of something exotic Okay, and civil rights, as we will see, he fought and he defended the ideas of civil rights. Okay, one of the things that we learned from Marshall, he used to say that when he came to Argentina, he was a couple of years, I think less than 2 years, in this big synagogue, an ancient synagogue. And then, as many times happened, he left and he founded two institutions. He called the institutions the factory and the laboratory. The factory was the rabbinical seminar. It was a branch of the Jewish Theological Seminary with 2 teachers, Marshall Meyer and Mordechai Edrei, another rabbi that sometimes I quote in my lectures or sermons. And the factory was Comunidad Betel, the synagogue. So he used, and by the way, I would like to translate this. Betel, founded by Marshall and Naomi Meyer in 1962. This community promotes the Jewish values, education, human rights, solidarity, and interfaith dialogue. And this is our, Julian and I's, child and youth congregation. We grew up there. I will talk about this if I have time. And also, it's very important, our parents, I said to you that my grandpa was in the soup kitchens. Judy's mom, Sarita, was for many, many years part of the board of Comunidad Betel, was the secretary of Betel. Judy's dad, Carlos, for many, many years was part of the board of the Seminario Rabínico. He was the secretary and vice president, I think, one time, of Seminario Rabínico. So we learned from them that being involved in the community is something that is important. That we don't need to take our Yiddishkeit, our Judaism as granted. We need to live. We need to be committed. Okay, and so I'm remembering all these people who passed away and were our roots and taught us how to be Jewish, how to be human in the Jewish way, because Okay, so Seminario. Let's go to the factory first. This picture is my smicha. This is Marshall Meyer, and this is your rabbi when he had hair. Some time ago. So the seminario, the rabbinical seminar has had many goals. The first one and most important is training rabbis, but also giving academic degrees. Nowadays the seminario grew and there are many agreements with different universities in Israel and the US and different parts, but for a BA, for a MA, or even for a PhD. Teachers for schools, cantors. I will talk about music in a while. It was a very important pillar. Lay leaders, how to be a lay leader. It's completely different to be a board member in a corporation than in the community. So how to be a Jewish lay leader. There's a huge library, probably the most important Jewish library in Latin America, is in the Seminario Rabínico, and it was one of the goals of Marshall. Publications, especially in Spanish. Sidur, Machzor, they were just in Hebrew, and how you can engage the youth with words that they don't understand. So the first Sidurim, in translated into Castellano, that it's not Spanish, that it's our Spanish. It's not Mexican or it's different. So they became a reality, and of course interfaith dialogue. This was also in my smicha. These 5 beings that you are seeing here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Judy was pregnant for our firstborn, Adam Arishon, the first one. And we are in the yard of the seminario, and look how young we were. Well, the factory and the laboratory. This is Comunidad Betel. This is the congregation that Marshall founded. It's crazy because I am thinking about this right now. Marshall founded the congregation, and Marshall and Naomi, and we founded the congregation. I didn't realize this. Okay, so it was our community. It's where Judy's bat mitzvah was, my bar mitzvah was. It's where our chuppah was. It's where Adam's brit milah was. And it was my first pulpit as well. I was a rabbi in Bethel for 6 years. The first year with Marshall, and then he left. He came back to the U.S. To be in Los Angeles for 1 year, and then, as you know, he brought Latin America into New York and refounded in some way Congregation Bnei Jeshurun there. We will talk if we have time about this. This was one of the Benot Mitzvah that were held together. Can you recognize Judy there? On your right? Yes, on your right is Judy. And this, one of the pillars here was Machane camp, summer camp. I can talk for probably a year about summer camps, about Machane. But I would like to say that for us it's a school of life. We had these camps once a year for 4 weeks, and we lived Judaism as part of the daily life. Without, it wasn't like. I don't want to be disrespectful, but sometimes we are Jewish in one place and we go to other place and we are not, and so it's kind of psychologically breaking your personality, and so Machane was this, and seeing Marshall there. And disguising as an Indian for the last bonfire, and when I say that there's a kind of neo-Hasidism in here, when the Hasidim asked the Rebbe, how can he teach them? So one of the Hasidim said, well, we're not learning from the Rebbe only what he says and what he taught from the books. We're learning from him how he puts his shoes and do the knots on his shoes. So the way we act, the way we live. I mean, if you can have a huge, lecture about philosophy or whatever, but if you don't practice, if you don't show this in your life, it's like, it's theory, it's not real life. Okay, this was my tent, or one of my tents in Machane. Of course you can recognize me, or not. I'm the same face. Look at this. The same guy. Ba-ba-bam. Oh, wow. And of course you can recognize Judy. The girls didn't dwell in tents. They dwell in very simple cabins. So where's Judy there? Here. The same smile, Yes. By the way, in our group, in our group, besides the marriages that took place among us, just in one group, there came 5 rabbis. So, if I am a rabbi, it's mostly because of Marshall and because of Machane. So, if you want to ask yourselves if you have kids or grandkids, what is the best thing for them to continue their Jewish identity and education? Please send them to summer camp. Yeah. Okay. So afterwards, after going to Israel and studying, we returned and we were in Comunidad Betel, and I became, we were co-directors of the camp. So this is your rabbi, director of the camp, and Judy and Adam, and this is the board of of directors of the camp. This is my brother who was in the board. This is Judy, this is me, and this is Adam. So we had the privilege of being directors of this summer camp with 250 campers. Mm-hmm. I told you that spirituality was and is one of the pillars in Marshall's way and philosophy. So we were 3 rabbis in Bethel at that time, Marshall, Baruch Plavnik, both of them passed away, Zichronam Livracha, and this is me. Marshall was fond of opera, and he used to sing opera and used to sing very, very well. Has a very powerful voice, not like my voice. I use microphones. He didn't have to use microphones. So this is a picture that reminds when we were, the 3 of us were working at Comunidad Betel with many of the nowadays rabbis that are all over the world. Social justice, and I'm not going to do this, and human rights. This is Marshall talking about human rights in a demonstration. Okay, coincidence or bashert? Marshall and Naomi Meyer came to Argentina from New York in 1958, where the synagogues were empty. After a few time at Sira, at the first congregation, he founded the Seminario Rabínico and Comunidad Betel. Marshall and Naomi brought the liberal Judaism theologically based on Martin Buber and Abraham Joshua Heschel, this neo-Hasidic way of approaching to our sources. And to me, this combination, these new theological ideas, the combination between these theological ideas together with the Latin American culture that I showed you, from one hand, and the historical circumstances that that took place with the guerrilla, with the dictatorship, and then with all that happened, the poverty that happened. So this produced an explosive renewal in Jewish life and a tremendous impact for the Jewish people. We will have a lecture in January about this in detail, in a more academic way, because our lecturer, Professor Daniel Feinstein, he has a PhD on this, and he published several books on this, and he will be more systematic than me. So, Seminario Rabínico was founded 60 years ago, and so far there are 109 graduates rabbis. I am the number 14. Comunidad Betel was the lab for hundreds of synagogues in South America and all over the world. And the social and political situation made Marshall T. Meyer a fighter for human rights. And Marshall's impact went far away from the Jewish community and geographical frontiers. So, after these hard years of dictatorship, Marshall and Naomi decided to come back to the U.S. and, here is Congregation B'nai Jeshurun, and there's a photo of Marshall and those times. For me and for Judy, Marshall was a rabbi, as I said, our mentor, our friend, and this is our wedding. This is Judy as a Kala, and this is the Hatan, and this is Naomi Meyer, Gabi Meyer, Anita, and Dodi, and Marshall, who are our family, our family. And I would like to end this presentation before the questions, if you have, with a short part of the video, because I want you to listen to Marshall himself talking. So it will take just a few minutes. I'm not going to show the whole video, but if you want, I can send you the link to this. Okay.
Marshall Meyer, there were very few Jewish leaders who protested against the butchery of many Jews or Christians or atheists or whatever.
Marshall Meyer is no less a man of passion and courage now that he's fighting the battles of urban America and the American Jewish community today.
Of course, others, Jews and Gentiles alike, may disagree with Rabbi Meyer's mix of religion and social action, yet it hardly comes new to him.
What is the first question in the Bible? In the original Hebrew, it's V'yishma'u et kol Adonai Elohim mithalech began lo ruach hayom. V'yikra Adonai Elohim el ha'adam vayomer lo ayeka. They heard the sound of God moving about in the garden at the breezy time of day. And the man and his wife hid from God among the trees of the garden. God called out to man and said to him, Ayeka, where are you? Didn't God really know where Adam is? The omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent God had to ask where Adam is. God knew damn well where Adam is. Adam didn't know where he was. And the question is asked throughout the ages to each and every one of us, man and woman, where are you? And I'm not talking at you. Where am I? Where are you? Where are we? At every given moment of our lives. Whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, that's the question that perforates your being. If you dare listen. And
What's going on here? 1 second. Oh, here we are. Well,
You have a link to that?
sorry?
You have a link to that?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, this was in his, I think, in his 10th yahrzeit. Rolly, our friend, the rabbi from Bnei Jeshurun, and some people prepared this documentary, and but it's impossible to understand what Marshall did. He was so charismatic and so bright, so prepared, and do you have questions? Let's start here from I will do the following. I will turn this off and took this from here, because I know that on Facebook and YouTube, the brightness of the monitor, turn my, all this atmosphere like darker. So now I think they will be able. Yes, Evie, please.
Okay, so I know you've just been back to Argentina. How do you feel the Jews are treated there now?
Where?
In Argentina.
In Argentina. Okay. So anti-Semitism is all over the planet. And Argentina is not it's part of this. I mean, it's nothing different. If you saw the pictures of some of the synagogues and the Amia, there were like pills, you know. Have you seen the pills? How? Yeah. So we need to protect ourselves. Even Amichai, we had big pills, these things, and also security all the time. All the time we need to have security. Well, this is in Buenos Aires. Outside, in the more urban, non-urban, more in the provinces, there are still some anti-Semitism based on religion, that Jews killed Jesus. But most of the anti-Semitism in Argentina today is based, first of all, from the left as anti-Israelis. You Jews are doing this and this to the Palestinian people, and from the other side, you Jews are the communists that want to, it's not strange to you. It's almost the same thing. It's what's going on here in an alarming way. Yeah, I don't know who was first.
So I'm just curious, what made you and Judy decide to leave the synagogue in Argentina?
Well, we served in Amichai for 21 years. And this is a lot of time. And, many things happened during this period of time. And, so we thought that, and also Argentina, as I explained at the beginning, as Argentina was getting worse and worse in many ways. So we decided we had to do something different. So we went to Costa Rica, to the Pura Vida, the living, but then we decided after 4 years that this life, it's good for 4 years, but no more. and probably, Bashar, and Ira, and then you,
You mentioned the indigenous people in Argentina, the native Argentinians. How were they treated? Did Argentinians treat them as badly as we treated our Native Americans?
I think probably worst, but I cannot compare. At least the same thing. I mean, they killed. It was terrible. It was really terrible what they did. Unhuman. It's a profanation of God's name. Yeah.
How about now?
Well, now there is. There are many conflicts in the Patagonia, especially there, because some of them are politicized, so they are asking for rights and for their ancestors, but it's very difficult. It's. I can explain you, but it will take a lot of time to understand this. But there's a secretary in the government to deal with this, with aspects. The Argentinian population now is aware that, part of them were not, were not the 30% of immigrants. 70% were living there. In the 19th century, so they were natives. Yes.
Going back to the very beginning of the 20th century, when the boats started coming over from Europe, why did Argentina Argentina accept Jews, and why did Jews want to go there?
Argentina was open to all immigration. So this was part of the, the vision of the government in those times. So they offered many possibilities to all immigrants from Europe, especially from Europe. So Jews that were escaping from the pogroms and from anti-Semitism, and in many cases they were rejected. Many boats wanted to come to America, and they were rejected. So Argentina opened the ports and opened the frontiers to receive them. So we are grateful to those Argentinians that did that to our grandparents. Mm-hmm.
So no quotas at all?
What?
No quotas at all in Argentina?
Quotas.
Like quotas?
Oh, no.
Anybody could come? No
Oh, of course. The problem is that nobody wants nowadays, because it's tough. It's very hard, especially because of the economic crisis. If you have money, you will you will have a very great life in Argentina. Food is amazing. Especially if you like meat. Food is Italian food, amazing. Cultural life, it's wonderful. Friendship and social life, people are warm, are kind. But we have the other side, Yes, Frank.
So in the 30s, were there restrictions for people getting visas, to leave from Germany, for example, or France?
Yeah. Well, actually, what happened with Judy's family, for instance, our Oma heard that someone in the street shouted her and another member of the family, I don't remember who, "You dirty Jews," whatever. So the rabbi told Oma, our Oma, Judy's grandma, "Listen to me, you need to leave. You need to leave Germany." This was before the Shoah. And only one of their sons stayed there. And he survived Auschwitz, but passed away 1 week after the in Auschwitz they went with through this walk, march. So he did the march and died. Very sad. He was a violinist. Yes, so they escaped to Uruguay first, and then came to Buenos Aires. And there are many stories and anecdotes. Judy's dad, when they live in a small house, so sometimes he was a very small kid. They were twins. Judy's dad had a twin. So he slept in the, how do you say, ambatia, in the bath, yeah, there, and well, there are many stories. Judy's grandma sold a piano, changed a piano, I don't know what kind of piano, for potatoes, for one bag of potatoes. And also, and there's Judy likes to write, and one of her stories is about her Oma coming from Germany. She was she was told that she needs to not Oma, the Russian one, Abuelili. she needs to keep they put all the jewels inside a doll, and the mom, their parents told her, you need to keep this doll always with you. So they came to Buenos Aires, and well, there was the savings, that the only thing they could bring. So there was so many stories that, of course, you hear hundreds, maybe thousands of these stories. Sorry, that from our grandparents who escaped the war, you know, and yes, yeah, yes, Irv.
So, having gone to Congregation BJ a number of times, so the connection between your rabbi is why there's Argentinian rabbis today at BJ.
Of course, Rolly Matalon lived in our home in Argentina, in Israel for 1 year, when he came for his year in Israel, and we made a shidduch to him with one of Judy's friends from high school, and Talia is Rolly's wife, and the other rabbi who retired now, Marcelo, lives now in Costa Rica, and he was our madrich in Bet El, and the cantor Ari Priden there, he was our, we were our madrichim, our counselors in camp. And when we co-directed the camp, he was the musical director, and we sang together at Bet El. We are family. We are the same tribe.
And those are of the 109 rabbis that have graduated?
Well, no. I will tell you why. Because Rolly was ordained in the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York, and Marcelo was ordained in the Hebrew Union College. So I'm not counting them, but they, the two of them, as many of us, as Danny Feinstein, who will be your teacher, our teacher next month. We are definitely disciples, and Judy, of course, disciples of Marshall. Yeah.
If anybody ever goes to New York and you want maybe one of the greatest Jewish experiences of my 71 years, going to that congregation, going either to a Friday or a Saturday service, it's a combination, I would say, of Karl Bach with a...
Let me tell you. It's a combination of Heschel and Marshall's thoughts, and of course Rolly nowadays, with an Argentinian spirit that they brought from there, that Marshall brought from there, and then Rolly and Marcelo and Ari and all these Argentinian guys there. This was I mean, the explosion was not only in Buenos Aires, but then there was like a rebound, almost not the same, but it was a rebound in New York of this same combination. Yeah. There's any question on Facebook, Steve? Do we have any question on Facebook?
I don't see it. I see some comments from Judy.
Okay. Would you like? Yeah.
Is she correcting you?
No, she's just adding some tidbits of information.
About the piano. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, I don't think that everybody knows what Irva's referring to. That B'nai Jeshurun turnaround from a moribund congregation to one of the most vibrant Reformed congregations in the United States and a model for almost everybody. When that happened is an amazing story that I don't think a lot of people know about.
Steve, it's not, but they're not affiliated, right? Which is a side note.
No, they decided, they were part of, Heschel was one of the two big rabbis of the Jewish Theological Seminary. There were two brands. I'm not going to teach you now this, but there was in the right part, one rabbi, and Heschel was in the left part, and they were, were very like Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel, that like Hillel and Shammai, they were okay.
He's right, but a lot of Reformed congregations point to B'nai Jeshurun and say, we need to do that.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah, probably. So,
Reformed congregations that were pointing,
so this,
they didn't care.
they were conservative until 2 years ago, I think, and because of one issue regarding, marriages, so both Rolly, Marcelo, me, and other rabbis, we decided to leave the conservative movement, and I am affiliated now to the Reform movement, but I don't know Rolly if he is affiliated to any movement at all. But they are, well, I don't think, I will teach about these differences. Nowadays, it seems to me that we are living a different era, and we cannot so easily divide the Jewish participation in three. I think it's much more complex. Mm-hmm. Yes, Wendy.
How did the camps, the Jewish camp that you were talking about with the kids, compare to our camps here? Because I know you've been up there.
Yeah, but I could not participate here because of the pandemic yet.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know, but I think it's should be similar.
I thought you had been up there, but that's right.
No, not yet. But the energy of camp and the music and the way we lived Judaism. We had classes. We had even Hebrew classes at camp. It's something that it's really terrific. Yeah. Okay. 1 minute. Evie asked me, let me turn off the streaming, and I will give you a microphone.
Oh, no,
You don't need a microphone, so please come here. But I will turn off because
I'm just gonna get 10 minutes of your time.
we don't want this to be spread out.
I'm gonna bring you back to our neighborhood.
Are you muting the Facebook feed?
So I just want to say Laila Tov, good night to all of you that participated on Facebook and YouTube. So please.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay, as Mr. Rogers would say, I'm gonna bring